Now let me come to the another segment, and that is the most sought one, the fertilizer fertigation recipes. As I told you in between, that it's not possible to make you understand or make you learn the entire art of recipe. Okay, but I can assure you one thing, that we will make you learn in our future programs. We will make you learn. But to learn certain things, it's always important to learn them from the basics. And my experience says me that people who intend to go for making recipes lack some basic knowledge as how they should develop a recipe. So at least during this webinar, I will tell you something basics about the recipe, and maybe in future we'll go entirely with the recipe making. So the first thing you must know is that anything that is provided to a plant to supply essential elements, it's a fertilizer. Common thing. And there are three groups: macro, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium; secondary and macro, that is calcium, magnesium, sulfur; and micronutrients, that is iron, boron, manganese, and so on. Now for an hydroponic grower who intends to make his own recipe, here is a take for him. The third section you see of the micronutrients, this does not change for most of the crops. It remains same. What changes is the first and two. So if you have 10 crops and you want to develop the 10 recipes, at least be sure, if you know the third segment, this particular segment is equally applicable to all the 10 crops. You need to know about the first and second. That is the first take from it. But there are certain more things. You need to know that in what ionic form these fertilizers are taken up by them. Everything is not taken by the plant. When we talk about the organic fertilizers, even the organic fertilizers are not taken up by the plant as it is. These also firstly get converted into inorganic form, and then these are taken up by the plant. So suppose we apply nitrogen to the plant, there are only two forms, that is NO3, nitrate form of nitrogen, or NH4, ammoniacal form of nitrogen. These are applicable, I mean, these are acceptable to the plant. If you apply in any other manner, that has to firstly get converted into either of the two, and then only it will be taken. Remember the charges as well. These are all ions. They carry positive and negative charges. Hydroponic growers should know that we need to use water-soluble fertilizers only. You cannot use any other thing. You have to make sure that the fertilizer sources you select, these are 100% water-soluble. Because when you make them, add these to the water, this fertilizer source will break. Say calcium nitrate, when you add it to the water, it will break. It will break into calcium positive ions and nitrate negative ions, and then only it will be visible to the, available to the plant. If it doesn't break, if it is not soluble in water, it won't be taken away by the plant. So the first lesson for recipe making is to ensure you are using only and only 100% water soluble fertilizer. That's the first lesson. Then second thing for a recipe making is to make sure that what crop it is and stage of the crop. Whether it is into vegetative stage or it is into generative stage, as we say, bloom or grow, these are all stages of crops. You need to know the stage of the crop. Then the third is season. Whether this recipe you are going to use is it in summer formulation or is it a winter formulation? And then the third important thing is to know the compatibility of salt. Is it possible to mix all these salts together? Is it possible to mix A with mix B with B salt? Is it possible to mix D with G? Is it possible? You need to find out that, and that is what you see on the right-hand corner of the screen right now. And as a thumb rule, never mix calcium with phosphates or sulfates, because it precipitates to form calcium phosphate or calcium sulfate, and these both salts are not water soluble. Hence, these will precipitate, and hence these are not available to the plant. That is the first lesson. Make sure that you are using 100% water soluble fertilizers, and two, these are all compatible with each other. Then something very typical and something very surprising for me and for you as well. Uh, Believe me, for the 40 years, I've never come across a person in India who has perfected the art of reading a fertilizer label. I have not come across. That doesn't mean there are not people. There must be. I don't claim people don't know it. There must be. But there are hardly anybody whom I have seen asking me about the importance of it, because they don't know how the art. For them, go to market, buy a fertilizer and apply it to the crop. Job ends there. No. For a hydroponic grower, it's not possible. And that too, if he wants to make his recipe, it's not possible. You need to develop the art of reading a label, and how it should be done. That's of prime importance. And that is I am going to explain you in detail. Now you see an image of an fertilizer. This image I have taken from pack has been taken from the market. It is nothing specialized. One of the manufacturers are Agricare, and the salt on the front of it says 19-19-19. And most of people, experienced people, know what does it mean. It means N19, P19, and K19. That is, NPK are the symbols of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And for all common men, this means 19% nitrogen in it, 19% phosphorus in it, 19% potassium in it. Fine. I don't have any problem. It is okay. But when you add 19 plus 19 plus 19, it comes to 57. Now what is 43? Now what is 43? That is in the bag. You need to know it, because you are adding those 43% you are adding to the crop. And you have every right to know what is this 43%. These 43% are fillers. These are necessary to add. In order to arrive at this formulation, it's very important to add these fillers. Now, these fillers are inert material. These do not interfere with the normal working of the plant. So, the quality of the fertilizer will be decided by the quality of the fillers. The cost, in fact, will also be decided by it. Certain people use good brands, use good fillers, inert fillers. Somebody may not use that quality of fillers and may create a brand which is less efficient. Now, let's move further and look at this pack. On the front of it, you see 19-19-19. And on the back of it, you will see the composition written on the bag. You as a grower should know what does this composition mean to you. Now let's analyze the composition. The front label says 19-19-19 means NPK, all 19-19-19%. And composition on the bag says ammonical nitrogen 4.5%, nitrate nitrogen 4%, amide nitrogen 10.5%, and phosphorus as P2O5, not P, and potassium as K2O in oxide form, not as K. So this 19% P2O5 is P2O5, not P. And plants don't take P2O5, they take P only. They take K only. So a hydroponic grower should know the exact ingredients of this label. And for that, we need to convert P2O5 into P and K2O into K. Phosphorus oxide is to be converted into phosphorus, and potassium oxide is to be converted into the potassium. How can it be done? Very simple. No rocket science, no Newton science. To convert P2O5 to P, multiply percentage by 0.44. Shortcut. Don't cross the line. As I told you, you need to draw a line between Newton science and applied science. Stay within the limits of applied science. Don't move to the Newton science. You will get confused. And if you stay within the line, I can guarantee you, you will be a successful grower. The first step to failure is you follow Newton science. And we don't have capacity to, understand the Newton science. So how to convert? Either way is to know about the atomic weights of P, phosphorus, and or the shortcut is to multiply P2O5 by P, that is 0.44, multiply K2O to K, multiply by 0.83, and now we will arrive at NPK, actually 19, 8, and 15. So my dear friend, this is not 19%, 19%, 19%. Note it. It is 19%, 8%, and 15% only. And if you put this particular salt in your recipe with the idea of it is 19, 19, 19, you are going to commit a blunder. This is the first thing you must know. And then the second point is to now analyze the nitrate content in it. The nitrate content, it says ammonical nitrogen is 4.5%. Nitrate nitrogen is 4%. Amide nitrogen is 10.5%. What is amide nitrogen? Urea. So this brand is bound to be cheap because most of the nitrogen is supplied in the form of urea. And for all hydroponic people, I'm telling you, urea should not be used in hydroponics. It's not an ion. It does not carry any charge. So if you add urea to your recipe and put an EC meter into it, you cannot find the strength of your solution. This urea will not conduct any electricity. Hence, the concentration cannot be measured. So avoid using urea. And that is one reason. And there are a few more reasons also that we can explain in future webinars. But nitrate nitrogen is the best possible nitrogen for plants in hydroponics. And this brand has only 4% nitrate nitrogen. Rest nitrogen does not suit hydroponics. But that doesn't mean it's a poor product. No, it's a good product. Product is good, but we need to know where to apply. What is the application? Then comes another thing. That is, let's now compare two brands, two formulation graded things. That is 19, 19, 19 and 20, 20, 20. Most of the people are under this impression that these are more or less same. Sir, 19, 19 nahi mila to 20, 20 laga diya. Had it been same, then what was the need for company to develop 19, 19, 19 and 20, 20, 20? These are not same. These are different. Let's understand. 19, 19, 19. Now you are sure what does it contain? It contains, and now same way if you analyze 20, 20, 20, you will come to know about the total composition of it. And what is the difference now? What is the difference? Difference is 19, 19, 19 contains 4% nitrate nitrogen and 20, 20, 20 contains 12.1% nitrate nitrogen. This 20, 20 is bound to be expensive. Nitrate nitrogen is expensive. And if you tell me, if you ask me, I will suggest not to use this 19, 19, 19 in hydroponic. This I'm talking. This composition you should not use in hydroponic. Ideally suited if you want to use this one among the two, ideally suited is 20, 20, 20 because the nitrate portion is very high in it. Out of 19%, 12.1 is nitrate, and this becomes easily available to the plant. This is the art of reading labels. These can be done for graded labels as well as, and also for those salts which are single in nature, say magnesium sulfate, calcium nitrate. These are single salt fertilizers. These are graded. These are made by mixing one or more than more than one elements together. And there are certain fertilizers that are drawn out of one only. Then let's come to the fertigation formulation. Here you see on your screen a thali, a typical Indian thali that is served all over the country. Now watch it carefully. There are so many things available there. But let's presume when you see a thali, you see the food. You see the quantities of food, but simultaneously you see the different ratios. The amount of pickle will be less, amount of dal will be higher, amount of rice will be something. There will be one roti, there will be one papad. Why? Because they want to create a thali which is balanced and that suits us. Same way, my dear friends, you need to develop a formulation. First thing is it should contain all the fertilizers in the form that is acceptable to the plant, and next is it should have the combination in the ratios that is acceptable to the plant. We can have a separate webinar on that, but here I'm just making a passing reference. So a balanced thali for a plant means balanced nutrients and supplied with balanced pH, with balanced EC and dissolved oxygen. As you know, the lower part of the plant, that is the roots, need oxygen to breathe. Where from you can supply that oxygen? It is through water. Then another big blunder, and maybe a big shock to most of the people. how to measure the strength of a hydroponic solution. And most of us, even me, we measure the strength with the help of an EC meter. Fine, no problems. Here are two solutions. One is a fertilizer solution. We put an EC meter into it. It shows an EC of 2.5. The other one is a common salt solution. Take common salt from your kitchen and make a solution and put an EC meter. It will show an EC. If EC is the criteria of feeding your plants, does that mean we should use common salt in our recipe? No. When we measure the EC, we need to know where from this EC comes. It has to come from good salts, from beneficial salt, not from anything that is added to the water. So my dear friends, EC is the most popular way of measuring the hydroponic strength of a solution, but it is not the most correct way of doing it. Terrace garden hobby growers can manage with it, but big commercial farms should not take only EC into consideration. There is something else that we are going to discuss. Now, let's have three solutions. Let's oust common salt. Okay, fine. I'm fine with the idea. A common salt, we cannot feed our plants. I take it off. I throw it off. Now let's take three plant foods, plant nutrients, sources of plant nutrients. One, calcium nitrate, another one, potassium nitrate, and third one, magnesium sulfate. Now, let's take 1 liter of water with 0 EC, say RO water with 0 EC, and add, let's take three vessels, 3 beakers, add 1 liter of water, same quantity of water, same quality of water, and add equal quantity of calcium nitrate, equal quantity of potassium nitrate, equal quantity of magnesium sulfate, and check with our EC meter. If we have added equal salts, does that mean the EC will be same for all the three solutions? No. Calcium nitrate will show an EC of 2. Potassium nitrate will show an EC of 2.5. Magnesium sulfate will show you an EC of 1.2. Because every salt has its own capacity of transmitting electricity. Their salt indexes are different. So when you add 10 salts in your recipe and measure EC, it shows you the combined strength. It gives you the idea about the total salts present in the solution. Technically, you need to know the strength of individual salts. So how can that be done? Now where does the problem lie actually? Now here on the slide, you see on the right hand side, suppose this is a nutrient tank. Here we make a recipe and we put an EC meter into it and we see it showing 2.5. I'm fine with it because here I know exactly what I have added, what salts I have added. Here I am very sure. But now when it circulates and goes to the plants, their actions, reactions, and this and that, blah, 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 starts happening. And certain salts are taken up, certain are not. Plant releases few things into the root zone. So a mixture is created. And when you measure EC over here, this EC is not reliable. This EC shows you the strength of total salts. Here you are sure this EC comes out of which salts and the quantities you have added. But here you are not. Same way, there are few people that use TDS meters, total dissolved salts meters, to find the strength of the solution. This again is not correct. TDS meters and EC meters are same. With a single probe, your meter cannot tell you this is the EC and this is the TDS. No. These all meters are basically and basic EC meters. They take the readings of the electricity that is being transmitted by the salt, and there is a conversion factor fed into it. In few countries, 500 TDS is taken as 1 EC. In few countries, 700 TDS is taken as 1 EC. So if your EC is 1, automatically your meter will show 500 TDS because it is calibrated like that. It doesn't show you separately. In both cases, this shows the total strength of your salt, wherein you should know the individuals. Suppose back home you go and you eat your food and there is, anything that has been prepared at the home, you taste it and you find that this has less of a salt. What you will do? Will you add pepper also? Will you add turmeric also? Will you add all sort of will you repeat the entire recipe? No, you will top it up with salt only. Then why in hydroponics? If one item is deficient, why should we top it up with the entire recipe? We need to measure the individual strength of that salt and top it up with that. That keeps my recipe balanced for a pretty long time. Otherwise, when you add unnecessary salts, what are you doing? You are disturbing the ratios. Pickle बढ़ गया थाली में, दाल घट गई. And if that happens, it's an imbalanced thali. And if that happens here, it's an imbalanced formulation. It will spoil the crop. So what is the alternative? The alternative is, along with TDS meters or along with EC meters, you should use ion meters. These ion meters will tell you the strength of individual salts, which will guide you in developing the formulation and keeping it balanced for a long period of time. Here, let me quote. I know ion meters are expensive. I know. I have a few over here. This is an ion meter. You can make out this. This is an potassium made from Horiba. It's made from USA. These are expensive. Same way I have calcium meters. You can see the calcium meter here. They have a sensor. You can put a drop of your nutrient recipe here, and within half a minute, you will come to know about the strength of calcium present in your nutrient solution or in the root zone. And this is sodium meter. Same way we have nitrate meters. These are little expensive, say around 60,000 each. But if you add this cost to the entire project, it hardly contributes anything. Idea is to have these. If you really want to do hydroponics very, very professionally, you must have ion meters. And if at least for those people who think ion meters are expensive, at least you must concentrate on measuring the sodium content of your root zone, the chloride content, the nitrate content, the nitrite content, EC and pH. This was all about the fertigation part of it, and recipes will take in future, complete recipes. Now let me talk something very important, how you should lay a NFT farm. NFT farm should always be divided into three parts. One for sowing, another for staging, and third one for growing. And if you follow the 1, 2, 3 plan, what is that? That in sowing tables, the plants will stay for 1 week. On staging tables, the plants will stay for 2 weeks. And on the growing tables, the plants will stay for 3 weeks. The farm should be laid like this. And how does it help? Let me tell you that. Say you have half an acre of a greenhouse, and that has a capacity of holding 30,000 plants. Let's divide these 30,000 into 3 groups, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. And the sowing table should have a capacity of holding 10,000 plants. The staging table should have a capacity of holding 20,000 plants. And the rest of the space should have capacity of holding the 30,000 plants. Then how it operates? How it operates is like this. Say 1st September, you will sow a first lot of 10,000 in sowing. After 1 week, you will move this lot to staging. And what will happen? Sowing, you will put another lot. And after 1 week, you will put this lot on the staging. What you will do? You will put another lot there. Then another week, the first lot will move to the growing. Another week, you will put 4th lot, and the second lot will move to the growing stage. And same way, when you continue with the process, you will keep on replacing. Every week you will keep on sowing, and ultimately after 6 weeks of time, every week you will start harvesting. This I'm talking about NFT having leafy vegetables that have a life cycle of 4 to 6 weeks. This system should be followed. And so this is a continuous process. This will keep on happening. And let me talk about for the benefit of those people who have asked about the economics of the NFT. Go through this slide. You will get the recording. Go through this slide. Half acre of NFT, if done properly, note it, okay, have a capacity of producing, considering just 150 grams per pot production. It has a capacity of producing 68 tons of vegetables in 1 year. 52 weeks in 1 year. I take out 1 month out of it. 1 month loss can be here and there. We take only 48 weeks. And second thing, let there be a mortality of 5%. We take only per lot 9,500 plant. Still, the system has a capacity of producing 68 tons of vegetables in a year. And with a cropping load, with a harvest load of 68 tons, see the beauty of this system. Per day, you have a marketing load of just 200 kgs. Even if you are producing 68 kgs, 68 tons annually, your daily consumption, this marketing load is only 200 kgs. And in a place like India, selling good quality 200 kg vegetables is not a big job. I know it. I've been doing it for so many years. But it can happen. It can happen, provided you know the art. You know the art of operating the system. The system is not going to do it for you of its own. Then there are a few things about the growing media that we should select for our open systems. And here you need to select, and there are a lot many growing media, say coco peat, perlite, vermiculite. Vermiculite is not good to use because it's found to be carcinogenic. And there are peat moss, expanded clay. These are all. What you need to know about these things are, these are all good to use, but you need to check their porosity. What does porosity mean? Porosity means how much pore space is available there. Because if these have not pores, these will not hold water. And if these do not hold water, when you will add water, it will drain down. It will drain down. Let me tell you show you something again over here. I have these three things with me over here. The one is this. Now, if I put it in water, it has pore space, so it has absorbed water. This is what water is coming out. Now I have another foam piece, again all kitchen material. I don't know how my family is going to behave. I may have spoiled the kitchen, but doesn't matter. This has more pore space, so it's more water coming out. And this is a pubic stone. Let me put in the water. No water coming out because it does not have any pore space. So pore space is that space that will retain water and make it available to the plant. Ensure good pore space, say 60%, 80% pore space materials you should buy. And out of that 80% pore space, the water should hold 60% space, 20% should be left for air. You need to maintain the balance. Again, it is a topic for one webinar. We will discuss it in future, but you must have good pore space. See to it, the particle size of your media is reasonably okay. In fact, even if you are using coco peat, you need to use a mixture of fiber, chips, and the fine particles. If there are only fine particles, pore space will be less, so no water will stick. Remember, when you give water to your plants, the first thing that happens is this water will move down because of the gravity. If it has pore space, then because of the capillaries, the water will be retained by the plant, and then slowly, steadily, it will be made available to the plant. But in absence of pore spaces, plants will not perform well in any of the media. These are some of the slides. This is about the porosity. And then how to manage your root zones. End of it, we come to that root zone part of it. Hydroponics, you know that this nutrient solution enters from one point and it comes out from another. You must have two checkpoints, entry and exit. Collect your samples regularly from the entry point and from the exit point and check it for AC, pH, sodium, chloride, and nitrite content. And compare the two and make sure you are using reliable, good instruments. Then what observations you should do? Once you take the readings, what should you observe? If there is an increase from entry to exit, I'm talking. If there is an increase in pH, the availability of phosphorus and micronutrient is going to be down. These two things won't be available to the plant. So in that case, you should lower your pH. And how can you do it? By adding acid, yes. And by adding the ammoniacal, by increasing the ammoniacal content of your recipe. Because ammoniacal content, when it's acidic in nature, it will reduce the pH. And if you are using an ingredient like 19, which has very high ammoniacal content. When you add it, your pH will get drifted. It will get drifted because it has higher nitrate, acts opposite. Same way, if EC increases, it's an indication of salinity. And what does EC, higher EC means? Simple to note, higher EC means lower flow of water towards the plant. And higher EC means a lower flow of water to the plant, and lower EC means higher water flow to the plant. Here, the process of osmosis takes place. And what happens in osmosis? The water will move from a lower concentration towards a higher concentration till the equilibrium is reached. So if there is an increase in EC, the salt accumulations are there. And this can happen if you are using those fertilizers which have poor pillars. Maybe sodium chloride, or maybe anything else very cheap. That will increase, because when you add it to your fertigation product, it will not be taken up by the plant. And what's going to happen? It will get accumulated there in the root zone. It will increase the EC. Even if you are watering your plants regularly, this water will not be available to the plant. So make sure you are maintaining your EC nicely. And in case you see an increase in the EC, the best possible thing you can do immediately is to rinse your media with plain water. Let's add some plain water. Common thing. If you find sugar higher in your tea, what do you add? You add little of milk and reduce it. Same way, if you find salt contents higher in your nutrient recipe, add plain water. It will get reduced. Job done. Move ahead. Same is applicable to chloride. Same is applicable to sodium. Now there are two things more which you need to, major. One is nitrate. Nitrate is the most important, ingredient of any plant nutrition formula. If you see, if it's growing, its concentration growing in the your formulation or in the root zone, it is an indication of low take up by the plants. So if there is an increase of nitrate content in the root zone, or if there is a decrease in the, it can be either of the two. Either it will increase or it will decrease. If it increases, reduce the frequency of nutrient application. If it reduces, increase the frequency of applying nutrition. Don't change your formulations, because when you change accordingly your formulation, or when you add more of the nitrate, you are creating an imbalance in the formulation that will spoil the game. Change the frequencies. Change the frequency. Want to increase, you may increase, you may decrease. But if you are very sure that you have created a balanced recipe, don't change the ratios, apply the same. Then comes nitrite. Nitrite is a very dangerous thing. It's poison. Even if you find it in the plant roots more than 10 ppm, it's going to kill your plants. So make sure it does not happen. And where from it comes? It comes when your ammoniacal form of nitrogen does not metabolize properly in the roots. Because ammoniacal form of nitrogen gets metabolized in roots. And for metabolization, it needs sugars, which the plant supplies from the leaves. Now see the connection. See the connection between horticultural skills and the hydroponic skills. If these sugars are not during high temperature, during summers, when plant transpiration rate is very high, these sugars are consumed by the plant itself in leaves. So it doesn't make it available to the roots. It doesn't allow it to come down to the roots. And since they don't come, the ammoniacal form of nitrogen that you have applied in your fertigation recipe will not get metabolized. Instead, it will get converted to nitrite and burn entire the crop. So ladies and gentlemen, these are few things that you need to know. This is a base. Develop on it. We are there to help you. Me, my entire team, Team AgriPlast, everyone, we are there to help you. But you need to have a base. You need to know basics. You need to compete with your own self. And you must believe in applied science rather than going for hi-fi books, hi-fi technology and other things. Understand the basic technology, understand the basic, and then apply them. And best way of understanding things is understand in your own language, in your local language. Remember, agriculture is an activity. Unless it gets into your blood, you cannot do it. And its best way of getting into your blood is to understand it in your local language.
We can take some questions from the audience. You can raise your hands pressing your button, and then we can take the questions live by Mr. Call and the team. 3 raised hands. So panelists, please take care of this thing. Okay, Amrita Kalani ji has this thing. You can, Santanu Rastogi ji, you can speak. I have allowed you to speak.
Hello.
Yeah, Santanu ji, please go ahead.
Sir, I wanted to know what is the difference between indoor hydroponic farming and outdoor hydroponic farming, and for the what are the crops we can grow in indoor and outdoor?
See, no matter whether you do indoor or outdoor, but lighting is a must. So when you do outdoor, you are doing in outdoor greenhouse conditions. When you are doing indoors, you are probably will have to do the artificial lighting, which is essentially a photoactive light or PAR radiation. Call sir, you want to add anything to this? You can unmute yourself, call sir, and speak.
Okay, when you do cultivation outside, sun will take care of the light. If you do it inside, you will have to take care of the light. That is the fundamental difference, nothing else. Plant doesn't know whether I am being grown outside or I am being grown inside. What it needs is must. If it is you're doing it inside, you will have to take care of that. If it's being grown outside, then nature will possibly take care of all those things. No other difference. You have to be very careful about the lighting part of it.
Siris Podaji wants to speak. Siris, you can speak, please. You can unmute and speak.
Yeah, I am Shirish from Calcutta.
Yeah,
can you hear me? Yeah. So for an outdoor greenhouse farm, if we install fan pad, foggers and chillers for water, and we get production in NFT for say 250 grams per cycle in a hot and humid condition. Hot means temperatures going up to 35 to 40 degrees and humidity means going up to 90% like 6 months of the year.
Right. Let me tell you, when it comes to the humidity, when it's in high humid areas, I will strictly not recommend a fan and pad system, because by using fan and system, you'll be adding to the humidity. Since you are running water onto the pads, you will add more to the humidity. In coastal areas, you should not go with this. My personal experience, you should not go with fan and pad system. Naturally ventilated greenhouses are better suited with better ventilation. You need to design a greenhouse that suits your condition. Unfortunately, what has happened in our country, a design has been selected by the government and everybody is supposed to go accordingly. That should not be done. In coastal areas, fan and pad should be, should not be installed. Naturally ventilated greenhouses with better air circulation control will give you better production. Believe me, I have done 40 projects in coastal areas, 40 projects in coastal, some of them in fan and pad. And once we took the control of those units, we stopped the working of pads. A few pics that you saw when I quoted during my slideshow that these are from the NCR. Believe me, it was a fan and pad system which we designed, rechanged it, made it naturally ventilated and performance was better. Shirish, it's very important to know how to operate a greenhouse. That makes the difference. The basic system does not. Fan and pad system does not mean running fans and running pads and leaving everything to it. When to run, when not to run. You need to have good environmental control, good training for learning the operations of a greenhouse.
Next question is from Mr. Ramarao. Ramarao ji, you can speak, please.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Yeah. In AP, you are operating?
Pardon?
In Andhra Pradesh, you are operating?
We are operating in India and outside India as well.
Okay, okay. I will, one thing I will do, I will shoot the mail and then I will get it.
Sure, you are welcome, sir. You are welcome, sir, anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Add that in this interest of time, it may not be possible to talk to everybody with 33 raised hands. So what I suggest is that take a screenshot of the last slide and you can always write us the questions or anything that you have or visit our website. Most of the things will be answered by the team. And next is Mr. Himanshu Tyagi ji. You can please speak.
Yeah, can you listen me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm Himanshu Tyagi from UP. See, my question is that how can we control lighting and climatical condition in greenhouse during winters and summer? Since we have extremely hot in summers and extremely cold in winter. In winter, I want more production, but unfortunately, I could not do it. So, is there anything we can do it, or we can put extra effort to get more production in winters? Because lighting is a problem because there is a huge fog over here. So, how can we control it basically?
I think Abhishek, you would like to take this question. He is from UP and he has done many projects in UP. So Abhishek, take up this question, please.
Hello, Himanshu ji.
Yes, yeah.
We have met.
Yeah, we have already. Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
So thank you for the
Hi.
question. See, there are ways how we control the climatic conditions inside the winters and summers also. One of the very important ways which we have seen in our projects, because we have done more than 125 acres of greenhouses there in UP only. So we have seen that the effective use of illuminate and air circulation fan has been one very effective medium to control the climatic conditions inside this poly houses also. And the illuminate has become like it will act as a blanket in winters, and it will reduce the temperature in summers. So use of illuminate inside the poly house we would recommend, and we have seen some tremendous results in a part where the winters are very cold and the summers are really very hot.
Yeah, thank you so much. But in
Let me Tyagi, Mr. Tyagi, let me tell you one thing. When we talk about the greenhouse climate control, we basically the control does not mean increasing or decreasing the temperature. Let me tell you certain basics. It is going to be I feel maybe the next webinar we will be discussing the greenhouse climatic control. It is basically watching humidity, watching temperatures, watching leaf temperature, and ensuring proper transpiration of the plant. That will help a plant to grow. I'll give you an example. Can you believe that Nimrana, Rajasthan, we produced lettuce when the outside temperature was 52 degrees. In Ochandi, Delhi, near to Delhi, we produced lettuce in naturally ventilated greenhouse when they out on 28th of June. Why I'm telling you this? Why I'm insisting on these basic factors? We need to learn the art. It is possible. I can show you greenhouses during summer when outside temperature is 50 without any energy used. You will see greenhouse temperature inside less by 8 degrees. It is possible if you know how to manage a greenhouse, how to operate a greenhouse. Unfortunately, we don't know it. And that is the prime reason for the failure. And this is what we intend to change. We at AgriPlus intend to change it by trainings, by mass contacts, and we intend to have training facilities for laborers. Because what we have seen is when we hand over a facility, when we create a structure, when we create a project, when we hand it over to the people, it's being handed over to most raw people who do not know how to operate the facility, and the problem starts there. So idea is to, improve the training skills, improve the capacity building of all those people who are handling the greenhouse operations right there in the greenhouse. That is our job, and that is what we intend to do. Just wait, it's going to happen. That I can assure.
Last question by Mr. Porus, because Dr. Patel is not able to ask the question. Mr. Porus, you can ask the question, please.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is regarding the NFP system. Like, once you grow the crops and all this, what is the cleaning procedure like? In between, you have to clean the entire system afterwards, or is it a continuous process? Like, and what kind of chemicals you will be using to clean the NFT systems and all?
See, NFT system, the cleaning will firstly depend on the system you are using. The closed channels normally are a little tough to clean. The open channels are easy to clean. Best thing is we should not wait to clean it. You need to develop a process, a procedure, a methodology to clean these things. The biggest problem that develops in these channels is the algae, and it is preventable. You can prevent formation of algae by using some very let me give you an example. When I look towards the swimming pools, I don't see any algae in that. They're quite open, getting sunlight every time into it, but you don't see any algae. There are controlling measures. We need to know it. We need to develop those things and use them. It is possible. And neither the chemicals are, expensive, not these are dangerous or something like that. But you need to do it regularly. You need to create a sort of a schedule wherein you will be applying certain things on regular intervals so that such things don't happen. But ultimately, when you have to change the crop for a couple of hours or 2-3 days, you can clean them. Cleaning, I don't see is a problem. It can be managed. There are short-term measures. There are long-term measures.
But is it possible hello?
Yeah.
Is it possible, like when you're supplying the nutrients, how you clean that system? Because you'll be feeding in chemicals and all this. Will it interfere the chemicals which are used for cleaning? Will it interfere with the growing process?
Flow rate, when you maintain the proper flow rate, the chemicals, this thin nutrient film does not stay in the channel. Once you stop the supplies, all channels will get automatically, all the nutrients will be drained off. Then whatever cleaning agents you add, you need to be sure about that these do not interfere with the nutrients. And there are, suppose we very commonly use H2O2. It's an oxidizing agent, fast oxidizing agent. It's used for killing bacteria even in the operation theaters, in the swimming pools. It can be done if you run a very mild solution of H2O2 in your channels once in a week or once in 10 days. It will take care of a lot of things.
That is hydrogen peroxide, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There are many raised hands. However, due to time consideration, we will have to take up the questions in mail or phone call. So you can write to us. You can just take down the phone number. Just a quick closing remarks from Ashish first. Go ahead, Ashish. And we can stop sharing if you have already taken this thing.
Hello everyone. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks to all of you for making this webinar a great success. We have participants attending this webinar from many Asian and African countries, also from Australia and southern part of America. Messages which I would like to convey today, which is very important for planning of a successful project, are: choose right partners, as collaboration is the core of everything we do. Don't be fascinated about technologies. Select which suits to your crops and geography. Survey your local market, grow crops accordingly. If possible, follow the principle of demand and supply to get better returns. Collaborate with vendors to buy or produce beforehand, like Big Basket, local mandi, Walmart, etc. Very important point, always explore both the verticals, business to business as well as business to customers. I have specifically highlighted this because there are multiple startups who are working on the concept of farm to fork. And last but not the least, supply chain management. Like you are doing farming in Uttar Pradesh, maybe in Lucknow, and you have certain customer base you are supplying to them. And if it's the month of June, you are not able to produce capsicum. So you cannot tell your customer that, okay, in this month, I'm not able to supply you the capsicum. the customer may go to the other vendor. So you always have a arrangement for the alternative, or you may say a contract farming kind of thing to supply those vendors. We hope you found the conference informative and worthwhile. We wish you all the best and hope that you continue to be engaged with us. I would request Abhishek to put forward his thoughts and share his experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you, entire team. It has been a great webinar, and the kind of response we have seen from so many people, we did not expect that, but yeah, so many people have seen that. So I am doing farming also from last 10 years. Last 10 years, I would say, at the time when farming was not that glamorous. But now in today's world, I can see so many people today are joining farming, or they are coming to hydroponic sector or high-tech agriculture sector, these young entrepreneurs. My only advice to them would be that we can be your partners in your vision, and we can work together. We can be part of your journey, and we can provide you all the technical aspects and all the technical help and support as Agriplast, which our vision is. Thank you so much.
Hello, friends. Thank you for all the participants for such an overwhelming response to this webinar. And I would like to thank Kausar for such a wonderful presentation. I believe that you have enjoyed the presentation as well. And friends, when we talk about the hydroponic system, the automation system as well plays very important role in it, because here we are growing the plants in water, and that is also a circulating water. So it is very important that we should dose the correct amount of fertilizers and maintain the pH and pH of the water. Otherwise, it will be always a chance to either overdose or underdose of the nutrient. So friends, we need to choose the correct technology for the hydroponic as well. And thank you very much. Over to you, Rajiv sir.
So I would like to thank you all for being today. It has been a phenomenal thing. I think like more than 15,000 people have already seen this webinar. So I can rate it a success. The entire team has worked very hard, and without your participation, it would not have been possible. Probably in 15 days time, as desired by you, we'll be coming up with another topic. And that topic can be the most voted one. So we have the record. So we'll come back to another topic, and we'll be sending you, those who have already registered for this webinar, we'll be sending you the information. Just do a quick registration so that we can plan it better. Thank you so much. Till then, have a nice weekend. All the best to you.
Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe the YouTube channel of Agriplast Tech India Private Limited, and press the bell icon to get notification when we upload a new video.